Sports Carnival broadcasting live, baby, from the Trauma Center studio, powered by the Recovery Room. Here with you on a Thursday morning, Dave and Matt. Hope you are off to a great start this morning. Matt, the Sweet 16 tips off tonight. We've got more exciting sports in store for us. The Bucks had a huge win last night, and we've got some sad news with the passing of one of the NBA's all-time legends. How you doing this morning, my friend? It feels like it's been kind of a wild and wet last couple of days. We got so much rain out here. I'm watching atmospheric rivers over California. Feels like the nation's getting a bit of a rainstorm here.
Well, it seems to be going all the way around, especially if this big thaw comes through up north in the Minnesota area. We might get a lot of floods coming down our way this way as well. So it's just crazy with the weather that's going on. I'm doing all right, my friend. How are you doing today?
Well, I'm doing good. I'm glad that we're not really doing a weather show, because I'm like, outside of looking, outside my house and then walking around town, I have no idea what the weather's like anywhere else.
Oh, yeah.
I've seen some stuff in California, but I'm like, really?
Well,
even with thaw in Minnesota?
With what Coach Schmidt said yesterday, he got dumped on 4 inches of snow just the other day, and they're in frozen tundra. So, yeah, it's the weather's still not as delightful as we want it to be.
I suppose. It's getting there, though, baby. It's getting there. We had the first day of spring just the other day. It was awesome. P12 Foreman checking in today. P12 Foreman and John and his son Trenton and Trenton's girlfriend came down to the Recub for lunch yesterday. Had a great time. I went down and hung with them. He says, "What's the plan for today, sirs?" Well, I suppose you mean the show. Is that what you're talking about, Foreman? It's just going to be me and Matt flying solo. As mentioned, we've got Bucks talk. We've got a poll question on our Twitter feed and our Facebook group page. Really curious to get from you guys. And you don't have to just be a Wisconsin fan, but a fan of sports in general. Which kind of championship would be the most important to you as a fan? We're going to be talking about Johnny Davis, Lacrosse Central star, who's actually starting to now, Matt, make a bit of, let's see, I wouldn't say make a bit of noise, but he is starting to get minutes in the NBA. So he had 11 points versus Detroit last night, made a Sports Center top play. So we'll talk about that a bit. And then I want to kind of, I want to kind of open us up to some other discussions that we've been putting on the back burner, including one that has to do with the family member of yours who actually, in concert with one of the NFL's better coaches of the last 45, 50 years, wrote a biography. So we've got a lot of different stuff to get into. Foreman, other than that, I'll be back behind the bar this morning at 11. I believe you're opening us up at 10, so yes, I'll be back there at 11 today. So, Foreman, if you've got nothing to do, come on by, have some lunch. I see that Jimmy the Haggerty's checking in this morning, and he says, "Morning, gents." Top of the morning to you, Jimmy, in your new operations director role over at First American Roofing and Siding. How you doing, buddy?
Very nice.
I know, isn't that nice? Yeah. Jimmy's gainfully employed.
It's good to see you out there. I was going to throw this out there. I don't know if you saw this because you are on Twitter. So, and obviously we have about a week or, so away from April Fool's Day, but I don't know. Did you happen to see this Twitter release by Little Caesars?
No.
So supposedly, and we don't know if it's a joke or not, but it's on their Twitter feed. They're coming out with a new pizza that has 6 corn on the cobs for the crust. And you dip as the entire crust, dip it in butter. It's all over their Twitter feed. Once again, April Fool's Day is about a week away, so we don't know if it's true or not. But what do you think about that for your type of pizza?
No, because first, corn on the cob, that would be really hard to get. So you've got corn on the cob, and there's a problem. Then you have to put it in a pizza oven. So the pizza oven's going to fucking fry that corn on the cob.
Yeah, I have no idea how they're pulling it off, but there's a video of it. They actually show them dipping in the crust.
Bro, I think that might be a joke.
I'm saying April Fool's is still a week away.
Yeah.
But if this shit comes out,
I just don't know.
Are you going to try it?
No.
Okay.
I just don't know how you'd. First of all, I don't really like Little Caesars. It's not very good.
I agree with you on that too. I'm guessing, Foreman, would you try it? Because if you're out there listening, I'm curious about some of our listeners' takes on this shit too as well. So I'm curious.
Okay. Yeah, I'm well, P1 Breacher's like corn on the cob crust. No. I find that really unbelievable only because how would you cook it? Like you have to put the corn in the cob because you have to cook the pizza in a pizza oven. How would you make that the crust base? Like what would you use to attach the crust? Do you see what I'm saying? Like,
I'm agreeing with you.
I'm poking holes in this thing. I'm kind of calling it bullshit. Like I'm not saying it's specifically an April Fool's joke or if it's just a joke, something to put up on Twitter because I'm just wondering, like, what are they sewing the corn on the cob together with the other dough? And then how do you put it in the oven? That corn on the cob would come out, like popcorn. There would be no way to do
They
it.
obviously didn't go into detail, but this thing came out looking pretty damn good. I'm not going to lie. When they're taking the crust and they're dipping the corner, the cob in there, and then they're taking it looked interesting. I just didn't know if that was your type of thing or not.
I just don't know how they would ever be able to do it, right? It's like, deep fried ice cream. Like you hear fried ice cream, but it's not really fried. That's not really what it's doing. All right. So interesting. Thomas is checking in this morning and he says, "Good morning, Dave. My grandma had a fantastic birthday yesterday. That's very exciting and really appreciated the birthday wishes from everyone." Well, that's just lovely, Thomas. I'm so excited for you. Thomas, I'm curious. I've got one other question for you, Thomas, now that I'm thinking about you. Because yesterday, Matt, we were talking about baseball, how excited we are for Major League Baseball now that the World Baseball Classics ended. Well, Thomas is super pumped about the loggers. Thomas, is your family going to actually be hosting a logger again? Because Thomas's family has been one of the host families for logger players for, I want to say, over a decade. So he's had the interactions with a lot of these logger players a lot closer than most of us have. So, Thomas, if you are, in fact, in the know still, because maybe now you're living on campus, maybe they don't tell you these things.
Well, and I think that's one of the coolest things about the Northwest League is that there's
the Northwoods League.
Yes. Sorry, that there's so many families that do bring in players that are obviously from out of state that are trying to make their way into the major leagues and et cetera. So it's one of the cool things to have them come into the community and be taken in by families from the community.
I'm pretty sure that's the way it has to work, right? Because they don't get paid.
I don't believe so.
And I'm almost 100% sure that the team, the Loggers, because of the amateur status of these players, can't buy them hotel rooms. So I'm fairly assured that you have to live with the host family in order to actually play. Otherwise, it crosses over into some naughty rule of the NCAA, of which guys like Rick Pitino probably were so scandalous about. It's like, oh God, he bought this dude a dinner. Jesus, what an asshole. What an animal. How could he ever do that? I mean, I remember Penny Hardaway getting in trouble for James Wiseman because he, looked at him and also smiled. Wait, sorry, that's an impermissible benefit. Did you give him chicken nuggets, for Christ's sakes? These fucking guys in the NCAA are a bunch of just bullshitters, straight bullshitters. That's why a guy like Rick Pitino to me is like, yeah, nothing to see here. Now, you get a guy like Bobby Knight who's actively choking his players or throwing chairs at them, physically assaulting somebody, then we might have a problem. I tell you what, man, I don't know why this gets me so hyped up.
You're not going to let me live this down with Pitino. I know that.
No.
Sure,
I'm thinking about Bobby Knight now.
Okay, Bobby.
I'm thinking about Bobby Knight. And I know that we're in a different day and age, but if I was one of those kids and I realized that, again, it was the 70s, you're trying to play basketball, this is your coach. I just know what a hothead I am. I would have had 3 of my homeboys roll up on that old motherfucker and stomp him out. I'm serious. I would have had 3 of my dudes roll up with me and stomp that old motherfucker out. And I would have had no problem putting Bobby Knight's hand in a fucking car door and slamming that thing shut. Don't touch me. Who do you think you are? Who do you think you fucking are? You're my college basketball coach. You're not my dad. There was parts of that to me just go so past the pale. And I'm like, wait, so Rick Pitino might buy me a whore, which turned out not to be true. But if that's the truth, thank you. I appreciate that. You did me a favor. Bobby Knight's going to put his fucking hands on me and we still look at this guy and go, old school, great. Old school, great. Don't ever put your hands on anybody if you don't, in fact, expect them to turn around and fuck you up. That's what I would say. Just don't ever do that if you don't expect the converse of it.
Well, where do you think Juwan Howard would land in today's world? Because after the slap that happened, was that a couple years ago?
Greg Gard's, he definitely is not going to fight a 6'10" Juwan Howard.
Where would... And I still can't believe that Juwan Howard didn't get a bigger penalty. He's still coaching. I want my kids to be playing for somebody like that, I guess, if I had kids. Just because that's as a grown man going against another grown man, it was just very, very embarrassing. Complete opposite of a grown man going after a college kid.
Yes, it was. And that was another sign of just, I think, the odd nature of where we are in society right now, where you've got grown men. Okay, Juwan Howard to Greg Gard. Greg Gard's what? I'm not saying that he's a pipsqueak, right, but Greg Gard's a small guy compared to Juwan Howard, who's nearly 7 feet. And Juwan Howard's got, he thinks the proposed right to put his hands on Greg Gard. And then we saw that fucking dipshit Will Smith Scientologist asshole go up and slap Chris Rock on the Oscars.
Right.
The whole thing is a bit, I will say this, from a societal perspective, the whole thing seems to be unraveling just a measure, because those kinds of things, where's the shame? Where's the requisite shame that we have? I know that we're not supposed to live with shame. You need to have a certain amount of shame. That stuff's embarrassing. You've embarrassed your family. You embarrassed us. as a society. And I think that both of them, Juwan Howard probably a little bit less than maybe Will Smith for the way that particular thing went off. But I think both of them should be given all of the requisite kind of chagrin from society and being pushed aside a bit or being laughed at or mocked, at least in the very least, perfectly on schedule. All right, we've got a big poll question. I want to get your thoughts on this. When we come back, we'll unveil it. It's on our Twitter feed at the Sports Carney. It's also on our Facebook group page, which is starting to really pick up some speed. Super excited about that. Stay tuned. We're back here on the Sports Carnival, broadcasting live from the Recovery Room's Trauma Center studio in about a minute and a half.
What can I say? The Recovery Room on 7th and Mississippi Street is not only my favorite bar in all of downtown La Crosse, Wisconsin, it's my favorite restaurant in all of downtown La Crosse, Wisconsin. Breakfast served 8 to noon, Saturday and Sundays, daily specials, incredible cocktails, and the best damn wait staff in the entire city. My buddy Matt knows how to treat you right, and that's why when you go to the Recovery Room on 7th and Mississippi, you're always going to have a great time and a great meal with a great cocktail. So if you haven't been in a while, or perhaps you're just regular and you want to stop in again, make it a thing. I'm there every single week. How about you?
Do you have a wedding, anniversary party, or bat mitzvah coming up in your life? Then you need Hey Duda DJ services featuring Neil Duda, the Midwest Eminem.
No doubt about it, I'm done hammered, and that's every day. Brand so cloudy, dog.
Dropping sick beats while you enjoy your treats. No party is too big or too small. Quinceañeras, graduations, ice cream socials, or cockhold parties. Whatever the celebration, Hey Duda is rocking the foundation.
Here we go again, back with all our friends. Here comes the pain.
Neil Duda.
Welcome back to the Sports Carnival, broadcasting live from the Trauma Center studio. Matt, I'm telling you what, we're still getting the training wheels off of your broadcasting career here.
I agree with that 100%.
And listen, we're bound to miss a thing or two from a number of different perspectives. I do it all the time. I mean, shit, I shoot from the hip so much. I've made some wild proclamations in my time on air, not just here, but across the country. And listen, one of the things that I enjoy the most, and I want you to be able to feel empowered to really do this, is to jump up and call bullshit on some stuff. Because I was fucking around with what were we talking about before? I mean, we got into something about, I don't know, it turned into fried ice cream. And I'm like, well, it's not like they fry ice cream. You own a fucking restaurant.
Well, we started off with the corn on the cob pizza.
Oh, yeah, the corn. And I'm like, how would they cook this?
Yep.
Right? How would they actually cook this? Which, by the way, Johnny Wodzinski, who will try just about anything because he likes Malords.
Yep.
Okay, so that in that perspective, Johnny, we already know that you like things that taste like wet vomit. So he says that he would definitely try the corn on the cob pizza for sure. And then, he gives us what you probably should have just reached over and grabbed me with. Deep fried ice cream really is deep fried. He's worked in many restaurants. You ball up the ice cream and coat it in batter. See, that's where it gets me.
It's the same thing with like a deep fried Snickers bar or deep fried macaroni and cheese. It's
okay.
You get all frozen, you ball it up, you batter it, and you throw it in.
Listen, this is going to really show where I'm at from a girth perspective and from a dietary perspective. I've never had any of these things. Okay. I've never had that. Okay.
Well, Minnesota State, if you ever want to try anything, Minnesota State Fair is the best fair food in the world. That's where you're going to find all this stuff, is all I'm saying.
Listen, I'll tell you what, and this is my grandmother, rest in peace, Virginia Harris, still working through my mind today. Nothing tastes as good as thin feels. And sometimes I get this thought in my mind when I see or hear of deep fried this, deep fried that, and I'm like, damn it. Well, nothing tastes as good as thin feels, and I can't talk myself into having it.
Well, I guess I'm with you.
I feel so guilty.
I think a lot of people look at me because if they know me when I was larger, and you and I are basically the same size and stature, everybody tells me to eat another.
Not true.
Well, and we're thin. I get we're thin is what I'm guessing.
I'm jacked.
Well, that's
okay.
All right. Anyways, my point is a lot of people come out and tell me to eat a cheeseburger, this or that. Yeah. After a while, I can't eat some of this fast food like you're saying because it just doesn't make you feel good. And
right.
Like thin feels. So I can understand what you're saying with that.
So I haven't eaten, like I eat at our restaurant, the Recovery Room, some of the greatest food in town. I'll eat at a restaurant, which I'm not saying is markedly healthier, but there is something to be about, and it's a small difference about going someplace, sitting down, even if it's waiting 5, 10, 20 minutes to get a meal cooked by somebody in the back that they serve to you, as opposed to going to a place and having them throw it in a bag and hand it to you out the window. I haven't been to a fast food restaurant. I've taken John there, but I haven't eaten anything from one since I moved out here. I stopped at an Arby's in New Mexico. That was the last time. Like, I just don't do that shit. It just, you're right. Because to me, it's not even about the weight. It's about feeling gross. Like, I eat that stuff and, Not be smirching anybody that does it. You got to do what you got to do.
Right.
But I eat that stuff and I feel like fucking gross.
I can get with maybe a breakfast sandwich in the
Quick
morning.
Trip I love.
That and that, but
That's
after
terrible
that, once
for
you
me,
get
and I know it.
once you get in those burgers or cheeseburgers or
Yes.
double pounders or whatever, oh man, I can't do it. It's ugh.
Well,
sorry, my body tells me no.
Indeed. And I don't do much red meat. I do some every once in a while. Now, I was on a absolute red meat, a zero red meat diet for over 5.5 years. And then I slowly came off of that in the last couple of years where I'll do some, but I don't do a ton. Listen, I know I eat bad shit too. And I'll go to Quick Trip. I love Quick Trip. By the way, if you're listening and you're from Quick Trip, keep up the good work and or keep up the bad work. It's up to you.
I love the roasted chicken, man.
Dude,
I'm sorry.
Everything about it I love. I love their breakfast sandwich. I'm getting hungry right now. Breakfast sandwich is yummy. And yeah, roasted chicken's yummy. The rotisserie chicken Monday night, $5.99. Dave's there.
Yep.
It's just awesome. All right, let's see. Oh, wait. Thomas had something for us. He checked in. We were asking Thomas earlier if he would be hosting, his family would be hosting loggers this year. No, they will not be hosting loggers this year. Okay, thank you. Rob Dog from Stoddard checking in. Another one of our younger audience members asks or answers us. Dave, the answer to your baseball question is it will never be the top with the NFL, but it can be A1, AB with the NBA. I guess we threw out there sort of in a general question. Could Major League Baseball ever really get back to the top of the heap? I did put that out there on Facebook last night in a general way. Could baseball ever get back to the top of the heap? And I don't know if I agree with that even, Rob. I really don't. I don't know if it can come 1A, 1B with basketball. Maybe in certain areas of the country, yes, right? Like certain areas of the country are still really big baseball areas. Like
certain
New York's,
markets, yeah.
New York's huge. Boston's huge. You know, we're pretty big in Milwaukee. Chicago's massive for baseball. Regionally, baseball can do well. You go down to Florida and look at the Tampa Bay Rays. The amount of success that they have, they can't draw 5,000 people. You look at the Miami Marlins, they've got 2 fucking World Series, and they can't draw anybody at their ballpark, right? I mean, they've got 2 World Series.
I was also going to throw out with all this bullshit that's going on with the regional sports networks. MLB baseball will never be able to get up there until they get their television viewership showing up there because it's a regional sport, basically what you're saying.
Well,
and I agree with you that.
The other problem with baseball in the totality of the season, and this is why regional sports networks really came into play. What do you have as far as a difference? And if you don't know, I'll just tell you, between the NBA, NFL, NHL, and Major League Baseball when it comes to showing games.
Most of them are nationwide, I believe.
No, most of them are at night. And baseball games are sometimes at night, but there's a lot of the 162 that are in the middle of a workday because the sport is 140 some years old as a professional sport nearly, right? So, it comes from a bygone age. The Chicago Cubs, and you're hailing from Chicago, they didn't even get lights at Wrigley Field until what, 1986?
86, yep.
Okay, 1986, dude, I was a little kid. I was watching Cubs baseball on WGN. They didn't have lights until 1986. So I think that for a lot of those reasons.
Well, and the Cubs were also kings of the day games. The Cubs, you were always the 120 start with old style.
Right on. Okay.
Yep.
You're making my point for me. That's not a TV show. That's when housewives were at home watching soap operas back in the day, right? Which I don't even know if that exists anymore. First of all, I don't know if anybody can afford to have a single income family. And I don't know if there's actually soap operas. But what I'm saying is that, the NBA, the NHL, football's a bit different because it takes over all of Sunday, right? But they're done during the nighttime if you're going to watch them. And so that makes the television contracts for TNT, for TBS, for ESPN, for FS1, Fox Sports, whatever, a lot easier to be able to get their arms wrapped around. And also, I mean, the NBA season's long for sure. Dude, baseball's twice as long as that.
It's too long.
It's twice as long as that. So when we're thinking, man, the NBA season's too long, well, what kind of haircut do you give to the boys of summer? And I get it. Like, I mean, the ideas of what baseball is and how it's played and why it's played in the daytime, those are all great things. You can take school buses out there. Kids in the summertime can go out there. You can get we have lacrosse days. There are a lot of great things about day games in baseball, but that's where I think the TV part of it will never quite hit. And also it's not the same TV product. It just isn't.
And I agree with you 100% on that. And you just brought up the NBA. It seems like, being 81 games, it's a long 82 games. It seems like it's already a long ass season. It seems like it's just turning into an act of attrition at this point of it. So all the injuries that are going on in the West and the East with,
East is healthy. The West is all fucked up.
Embiid came out, I think, with some soreness or whatever. And then
that's Joel.
And then, yeah, that's true. And then
that's everybody's favorite 30 game of year MVP.
Harden's
candidate.
got an Achilles issue, but yeah, like you said, the West just, you have Durant that hurts himself just doing layups by himself.
Yeah.
So it's just crazy.
Yeah, he hurts himself in a layup line. I love Kevin Durant's play. I mean, he really is a slick ball player, the Slim Reaper, really good player. But, he's at that point in his career. And after you tear your Achilles tendon, I know that we've gotten so much better with medical technology and rehab. But when you tear your Achilles tendon, he missed an entire season and hasn't played more than, I think, 37 games in a season since that year.
Right.
He's just become a walking injury. Jeremy P12 Foreman's checking in and has something important to share with us because he mentions, and I'm happy for you, Foreman, because you're married, so this is good for you. He says he doesn't eat much red meat either anymore, but he does love himself some pink taco. So there's that.
You can always count on Foreman to liven up the show for us. That's for sure.
Absolutely.
Always.
Absolutely. Did you like Aerosmith's song Pink Was My Favorite Color?
No.
Really? I thought that was one of their better ones. All right.
Not a big Aerosmith guy. And who do we have in town last night? REO Speedwagon. I don't know.
They were in town.
Yeah, they played at the center, and I can't do that either, man. Too many days of DJing and REO Speedwagon sticks and Journey. It goes right out the window for me, man.
Well, I saw REO Speedwagon once. I want to say like 6 or 7 times in a year. So the REO.
Were you a roadie, or why did you do that to yourself?
Well, I'm going to tell you now. And it wasn't like I chose this. This is the way it worked out. So in the time in which I was working still at the end of my real estate career for Old Republic Title in Las Vegas, what had happened? The 2008 depression, essentially, right? The housing crisis. So you had REOs, which were real estate owned bank portfolio houses. Basically, your house got foreclosed on. The bank's making a killing. They're having parties and celebrating. And one of the things they do at their REO conventions, which my job was going around the country to all these REO conventions, and I hosted parties.
Okay.
Big surprise.
Yep.
Okay. So what was the best band to hire for all these REO conventions because of the uncreativity of the people in real estate? REO Speedwagon, of course. And REO I don't know if they'd ever made more money than they did during that year and a half when REOs and all the bank-owned properties were going, because literally every convention I was at, they were always at big hotel resorts. I mean, I was in Palm Springs, I was in Tampa, I was in Charlotte, I was in LA, all over the place. And REO Speedwagon inevitably was there. Again, I think I saw him 6 times. Maybe it was 8. I can't remember. By the end of it, you just become like, oh, it's these guys again. You see them around the hotel. You're like, fuck you. I'm kidding. They're very nice guys. They really are. And they're great musicians, but I'm with you. It's just.
What's your favorite song?
I don't know. Don't Stop Believing, maybe? Is that one of theirs?
That's Journey.
Okay. It all sounds the same to me. P1 Preacher checking back in and talking about our love for really bad food. I don't care if Quick Trip is bad for me. It doesn't make me feel bad, and I like the taste, I like the flavor, and it's convenient. So maybe that is fast food, but even still, I don't feel it's quite the same. Jason says Quick Trip is his jam. It should be, because up at Norwin, they make all the countertops for Quick Trip. Like, that's what Jason does.
Nice.
Yeah, he basically is a machinist. I don't know if that's what it's called, Jason. Are you a fabricator, a machinist? I can't recall. I don't know. Jason's also checking in about the lights on Cubs fans. He says the lights were also put in so Cub fans could see how to whoop the shit out of each other. Okay.
I would say that would have been
fair.
Yeah, it was probably better when the lights were probably better for when the White Sox and they started to do the inner city games, because those were some good old brawls back in the day.
Well, those didn't happen until, I remember when they started doing the American and National League, interleague play. Yep. What a novel concept that was. Think about that. Major League Baseball had to really go through fits and starts about just letting teams from the same city that were in the other league play each other until the World Series. The World Series? What world what? Between Brooklyn and fucking Boston? That's another thing about baseball. The World Series is between American teams. There isn't a world involved. It's the American series.
Well, even with fucking
state series.
So with we already talked about baseball. They're the longest to adapt, and when they adapt, they tend to screw it up. Look, obviously, we can go back to the Negro Leagues. We can go with the vitamins, you like to call them, after World War II.
Amphetamines.
Yeah. But you call it vitamins nowadays. But what I'm going to is
that's what they called them, and they called them greenies.
Oh, greenies.
That's what they were.
That term.
Breacher Foreman calls all of his prescription medications vitamins.
Okay,
that's what he says.
Where I was going is, how the hell can they screw it up where they are having the World Series determined by the All-Star Game winner?
Yeah, that was stupid.
Yeah.
Well, the World Series home field advantage.
Yes. I mean, it's dumb.
Well, it did actually make that All-Star game, though, feel a bit more impactful, didn't it? Because the American and National League are playing for something which I don't think they ever should have been playing for. But there was somewhat of an impetus to win that particular game. Now, if I'm on one of the worst American League teams, though, and I'm getting beat up every day by like the Houston Astros, but say I'm the all-star, the lone representative from the Texas Rangers, whatever. And I'm not saying they're going to be terrible, but I wouldn't necessarily want the team that's beaten me to death every single other Thursday to have that home field advantage. Hey, Jose Altuve, fuck you, man. Go play on the road
Go bang a trash can somewhere else.
Yeah, exactly. I like Marengo Mike. Real quick, I'll check back in with him. He says, you can tune a piano, but you can't tune a fish. REO Speedwagon. I forget the reference there. I know that there is one. Was that from Seinfeld? I can't remember.
And then I have nothing for you on that one, man.
I don't know. I've got a poll question that I want to roll out to you guys and gals. So Eric from La Crescent, hold tight because I want to get to your comment, but I do want to roll out this poll question. You guys have been doing a great job of taking it already on our Twitter feed at The Sports Carney. Again, at The Sports Carney. Our Facebook group page, again, continues to just grow, guys, and we're so excited about this. We're over 400, and now I want to say 41 members as of this morning. So we're seeing a big jump. We're starting to pick up new members each and every day. Really happy about that. The question for you is this, and you can take this if you don't want to just go Wisconsin sports, but say that your state has all of the same pro sports that our state does. So in Chicago, Marengo Mike, you can just pretend this is for, Illinois residents. But what would mean the most to Wisconsin sports fans is the poll question this morning. A Packers Super Bowl, a Bucks championship, a Brewers World Series, Matt, or a Badgers National Championship. If you were to guess, and I don't know if you've already looked, but where would you say the results are on our Facebook group page right now?
I'm guessing they'd go with the Brewers. My other question being, see, this is where I looked at it, but I didn't really sign off on it because I would have brought in the caveat. I would have gone with the Badgers National or Football Championship. So if we had to specify if the Badgers would ever win a championship, I think that would be in football. That would probably blow the state's mind. If the Brewers would ever win a World Series, I would go to Milwaukee and party.
So 65% of respondents on our Facebook group page right now have Brewers World Series winning this poll. The Badgers National Championship comes in second with 18%. Packers Super Bowl, 12%. Bucks Championship just getting 5 points. Now, transitioning over to our Twitter feed at The Sports Carney, we're deadlocked. 35% apiece for Packers Super Bowl and Brewers World Series, 15% apiece for Bucks Championship, Badgers National Championship. And I realize what you're saying about the separation of the basketball and the football. I think that the implied national championship is in football. The Badgers basketball team feels a lot further away from a national championship than the football team probably does with Luke Fickell, but we leave it open because Twitter, kind of uncoolly, only gives you 25 characters in which to use and only 4 choices to use as a poll question. Right. So we did what we did with national championship and Badgers, and hey, that gives you an opportunity to really weigh in, whether you're a football or a basketball fan, depending on how you see things. Look, I think for what it's worth, and it reflects on our group page, I think that for what it's worth, a World Series, and the owner, Jerry Reinsdorf of the Bulls and the White Sox, mentioned this, a World Series is almost like the most impactful professional sports championship that there almost still is. Super Bowl is probably right up there too. But there's something about the history of a World Series. Reinsdorf said that once the 6 Bulls championships didn't mean as much as that one White Sox World Series did back in, what was that, 2005, 2006?
Yep.
Yeah, Frank Thomas was on that team still as a designated hitter. So in that respect, I can see why a Brewers World Series would mean the most. Now, the other thing possibly involved in this is that the Packers have had so much success. So there's multiple Super Bowls already there for the Packers. The Bucks do have 2 NBA championships. So they've gotten themselves to the top of the mountain and have won. The Brewers haven't. And maybe that's why we look at the Atlanta Braves and think, damn, that was our team. That was the Milwaukee Braves with Hammer and Hank Aaron.
Yep.
Goes to Atlanta. Now, it took them a long time to get to a World Series and win one, but they've put a couple of World Series teams together recently. Well, they put one World Series together recently and then one back in the 90s.
Well, what I would say for this, and there's not a lot of Chicago fans out there that can say this, I've been lucky to see all of my 4 favorite teams in professional sports win a championship in my lifetime. I think there's a lot of people from Wisconsin that would love to be able to say the same thing too. You couldn't say that back in the day. Obviously, we have somebody coming up and say, fuck the Cubs. I'm with you on that too, because I'm used to that. Just some new material would be better. I'm always going to be happy that I was able to see the Cubs, the Blackhawks, the Bulls, and the Bears win a championship in my lifetime. I think that'd be great for everybody in Wisconsin if they could say the same for their favorite teams.
Absolutely. Yeah, you got to see a Cubs World Series, which took them just slightly over 100 years. No big deal. Pretty quickly, got that work done. The Blackhawks won. Didn't they win? Yeah, three in like 7 years or something like that. The Bulls, of course, had their run. Yeah, that's a good call. That's a good call. And then the White Sox winning a series too.
And that was huge for the city of Chicago. I'm not a White Sox fan, but it was huge for the city of Chicago.
It was for me because I liked Frank Thomas quite a bit growing up.
Right.
Like Frank Thomas was one of my favorite players back in the day. Dude, big Frank.
Him and Albert Bell. Oh, yeah.
Well, it was Frank Thomas, Cecil Fielder. Loved Cecil for the Tigers. Albert Bell was huge. Jim Thome for the Indians at the time. I really loved Jim Thome. And, of course, Ken Griffey Jr. for a period.
Sweetest swing of all time.
Probably. Really, I think that probably he has at least one of the sweetest swings of all time. Marengo Mike checking back in and helping us non-REO Speedwagon fans out here. You can tune a piano, but you can't tune a fish was the name of an REO Speedwagon album. All right. There we go. And then Marengo Mike following up with this because he lives in Marengo, just outside of Huntley, Illinois, which is a suburb of Chicago. He loves watching Cubs games at Wrigley North.
That'd be Milwaukee.
That would be Milwaukee. That's what I like to hear you say. Thank you, buddy.
And that'll, I guess, yeah. Well, they're in Chicago, but at least we get started Cubs and Brewers in 7 days. So I'm looking forward to it.
You betcha. 7 days, Cubs, Brewers. And that means that we've got to put, again, you on the spot for the recovery room to host a huge opening day party. So we usually do what? Brats or hot dogs, stadium food, beer.
Yep.
What are we thinking?
We're going to do a lot of specials on obviously beer. We're going to try to throw a little stadium feel. Depending on how the game's going, maybe we'll open up with a game on for a little bit, get just the little baseball feel, but we'll get ballpark type food for specials.
Okay, but we're going to watch the game. You said we're going to open it up for a little bit. We're going to have
I mean having the game on the audio.
Oh,
so we can listen to the game for a little while.
Absolutely, we should.
Yep, exactly.
Absolutely, absolutely, we should. Now, maybe, just maybe, we could figure out a way to get Bob Uecker on the call. I don't know if we'll be able to work that out because who's got a radio anymore?
Well, if we can get the Brewers and I guess
it's just the radio.
It's radio. Yeah. Well,
I don't know. We'll work on it. We'll see. Maybe somebody's got a boombox they can bring in here and we can tune it up like it was back in 1988. We've been talking about the 80s quite a bit. All right, guys and gals, stay tuned. We're going to come back here on the Sports Carnival, broadcasting live from the Trauma Center studio in just about a minute. I do want to talk some hoops because we have the Sweet 16 tipping off tonight at the Recovery Room, and I guess I should say today at the Recovery Room. We saw the Milwaukee Bucks play against a depleted Spurs team last night and absolutely roll these fuckers. Giannis, again, had an amazing game. And Johnny Davis, Lacrosse Central star, is finally starting to see some minutes with the Washington Wizards. We'll talk about that. Stick around. This is the Sports Carnival, again, broadcasting live from the Trauma Center studio.
Now more than ever, if you're looking to buy or sell your first home or perhaps an investment property, you need a full-time dedicated real estate agent who is up to date on all the latest trends and analysis and is ready to give you the kind of service that you deserve. That's why the official real estate agent and the official real estate partner of the Sports Carnival is Kyle Cable of One Trust Real Estate. Whether you're looking to buy or sell your first home, or perhaps you are a seasoned investor, call the official real estate agent partner of the Sports Carnival, Kyle Cable of One Trust Real Estate.
Do you have a wedding, anniversary party, or bat mitzvah coming up in your life? Then you need Hey Duda DJ services featuring Neil Duda, the Midwest Eminem.
No doubt about it, I'm hammered, and that's every day. Brand's so cloudy, dog.
Dropping sick beats while you enjoy your treats. No party is too big or too small. Quinceañeras, graduations, ice cream socials, or cocktail parties. Whatever the celebration, Hey Duda is rocking the foundation.
Here we go again. Back with all our friends. Here comes the pain.
Neil Duda.
Welcome back, Sports Carnival, broadcasting live from the Trauma Center studio. Dave and Matt here with you. Want to send a shout out this morning to our good buddy Kyle Cable at One Trust Real Estate. Kyle yesterday put up on Facebook, Matt, the listing for my condo in the Wisconsin Dells on Lake Delton. We're getting some crazy action right now. As a matter of fact, I've had friends texting me that have seen this listing on Facebook and asked me, is this your place? And I'm like, yeah, it is. So I'm selling my condo on Lake Delton. If you know somebody that wants to buy it, maybe it's you, reach out because we're going to have some interested potential buyers here. It's just one of those things working with a guy like Kyle, Matt, that you really look forward to because He's got all the right knowledge. He's got all the right tools. He gets out there, markets this thing in exactly the way it should be marketed today. And listen, you can do real estate a lot of different ways. You can do it the old-fashioned way, pen and paper. I'm not telling you that can't sell a house, but this market is very competitive. And there are a ton of people that are looking to buy. There's only X number of inventory that's available. And when you need to move that inventory, get the top price, or when you need to get into something, you need to work with somebody who knows exactly what they're doing and how to get what you need done. That is Kyle Cable at One Trust Real Estate. So happy to have him aboard. I do want to go back. Jason Breacher was saying this. The only problem with fighting Cubs fans is the amount of ass crack they are displaying as they are falling down over their stairs and seats. So we had the electrification of Wrigley Field so that Cubs fans could see each other fighting. And now you have Breacher talking about the girthiness. Jason, I think that's like the pot calling the kettle fat. We're from Wisconsin, bro. Like, seriously?
Yeah, man. I'll take all the hate in the world, Dave. I'm all right with it, man.
We're in Wisconsin. I don't know if we're the one to throw any fat shade on anybody.
Yeah, throw some shade around. Yeah, I don't know. If you're going to throw any shade, please throw it at the White Sox. If you're going to talk Chicago.
I'm just saying, like, that's maybe one moo over the line, because again, we are in Wisconsin. Listen,
Midwest, baby.
Oof, man. First time I ordered a medium shirt out here, I got it. I felt like I needed
this is a great story.
Stitch to pop it up. I'm like, I'm wearing my dad's clothes or something. It was a Wisconsin medium, which I found out west is called a large or extra large. So now I shop in the Baby Gap, and it seems to work out just fine. Joe V's checking in this morning. Joe, you're an attorney. I was hoping you would have some sort of insight for me, maybe that I could really flex here. He's asking if someone has an MLB TV account, can they stream the radio? No, I don't think so. And I think the only way that you can get the radio, local market radio, is to be in local market. I'm pretty sure that's the way that it works. However, if there is a subscription service with Major League Baseball where you can listen to the radio streams that I don't know about, then maybe, because I haven't bought into that. I've never gone that deep on Major League Baseball, because largely we've had the Brewers were FS1. Now they're Bally Sports, and Bally Sports, I realize, is going through bankruptcy, but it's still on. It's still on right now. We showed the Brewers a couple of days ago.
Yep.
I was down at the bar. We had a Brewer spring training game. We put it right on. Bally Sports is still out there. So, Joe V, I'm not sure. I was hoping you'd be able to tell me something about that.
Yeah, because I don't think back in the day you used to be able to do it on iTunes Radio, which is no longer around. I don't believe even the option is on Spotify. So yeah, it's really hard to get those local radio stations for sure.
Yeah, I don't know. I've never tried for that. Again, I worked at a radio station that had the Brewers, so I didn't need to search for that particular thing. And if you need to listen to the Brewers on radio, I mean, there's a local lacrosse station that still carries the Brewers. I think you could pretty much figure out what that is.
You just can't get euchre. That might be hard for us to do here in lacrosse.
Well, you can get them on the radio station.
Well, but I mean, I'm trying to figure out how I could do that through the sound system.
Well, you couldn't. You'd need to have a boombox. Morning Wood is popping up and saying we need to call out Joe DeGuano to make an appearance on opening day. We'll see if we can. I mean, I'd love to have him down there. We'd love to have him down there. Foreman saying he still believes he has that big ghetto blaster boombox somewhere. That's the only way that would work. Yeah, right? You get a big, boombox in there, which I think Jason Breacher wants me to explain what that is to peeps that are under 25. All right, so a ghetto blaster or a boombox is a large portable stereo, and they called them boomboxes once they got over about this big. Okay, so if you're watching us, you can see where my arms are. If you're listening to me, you can't really tell. But they're about this big, and they got to about this big, and they had sometimes 2 tape decks, sometimes 1, but sometimes 2 tape decks, and they had the AM/FM radio. So you could take this with you, oftentimes carry it on your shoulder, be able to listen to it as you go around town. This was, of course, when you wanted to be obnoxious. Now, you could have the Walkman, listen to headphones, and have the little cassette, which if you were exercising was always a miss because it skipped. I mean, the tape was always skipping. There was no skip avoidance. And I don't care what they said about skip avoidance. I used to try to run with those things on. No way. It did not work. Anyhow, you want to be obnoxious, you carry the boombox and you have it there, and then everybody gets to hear what it is that you're hearing too. So that's what a boombox was, a large portable stereo, 1 to 2 tape decks, AM/FM radio, and then, of course, you had the antenna that pulled up, and this big, long metal antenna.
Yep.
We have to make sure that you get the strong radio signal. Now, the other problem we might have with actually doing this and pulling this off at the Recov is the limited strength of the signal in which the Brewers actually get played here in lacrosse. So I don't know. Listen, where there's a will, there's a way. It's been done before. I know that for sure. It has been done before.
Why is it that when I'm first thing that comes to mind with a boombox, I either go to like Baywatch or Miami Vice, where there's a guy on rollerblades just going up and down the beach, and he's got the boombox and he's just skating, or roller skates, not even rollerblades in the 80s. That's the first thing that comes to me. Or even Some White Man Can't Jump, the original. That's the first thing that when I think of when a boombox comes to my mind.
Okay. I like that. Rob Dog from Stoddard answers the question actually for us when Joe V asks, can you get the radio streams if you have an MLB TV account? Rob Dog says, yes, you can get the radio calls on MLB TV. I've used it to listen to Brewer games when he was at Western TC. So there you go. I like that, Joe, and I like that, Rob. Thank you, guys. Boomstick, Eric from La Crescent, hold tight because I want to get to something, and then I'll come back to your comment. I mentioned NCAA, March Madness basketball, the Sweet 16, tipping off again today/tonight. 5:30 p.m. is when I'm seeing this actual game start. You said 6:30.
Yeah,
I think that's 6:30 Eastern time.
Yes, sir.
5:30 in our central time zone. We've got Michigan State taking on Kansas State. Arkansas at UConn is up next, or not at UConn, but taking on UConn. Florida Atlantic, FAU, and Tennessee. And the nightcap tonight will be Gonzaga and UCLA. Michigan State and Tom Izzo. Michigan State is now, with Tom Izzo, going to their 15th Sweet 16. Kansas State's coach has been to what? One? This is his first one. Made a couple of NCAA tournament appearances. What were we looking at this morning? If Tom Izzo wins this game, if they beat Kansas State, if Michigan State, Jeremy P12 Foreman's team, beats Kansas State, this will be the 8th Final Four for Tom Izzo, or 8th Elite 8, or something like that. He's getting into really crazy rarefied air. What was that stat we had?
Well, right now, Jerome Tang, it's the head coach for Kansas State. He's only coached 2 games because this is his first time in. It'll be his first Sweet 16th. This will be Izzo's 79th game in the NCAA tournament, which is absolutely crazy. And as you said, 15th. So it goes to show the longevity and the tenacity and how, and especially with what Michigan State went through, about a month ago. It's crazy that how good they're playing. I'm proud of him. And Izzo's a good coach. So it's going to be a fun game to watch. And I think Michigan State's just going to tear Kansas State apart.
Yeah, listen, Kansas State, the Big 12 has been awesome this year. Michigan State's surprising me with how well they're playing right now, but they've definitely got a really, really good chance to win this game. The Hauser kid is playing awesome. And it's great to see another Wisconsin native really make a mark in basketball, because his brother is playing for the Celtics right now and being kind of a revelation for that Boston team off the bench. And then you've got him playing the other Hauser at Michigan State. Both these kids started at Marquette, transferred out. So nice to see that. The Arkansas-UConn game, I think that UConn's got the real upper hand in this one. They've got some real beasts down low. They've been playing great basketball, but Arkansas, again, has been one of these kind of surprising teams playing in a really tough SEC basketball conference this year that could upset. Florida Atlantic, I think their run ends tonight. They're a 9 seed versus Tennessee. This is the Tennessee Volunteers that just destroyed Duke. And Duke was looking like one of the, if not the best teams in the country. I like Tennessee in this spot. The Gonzaga-UCLA game is a real tough one. This is almost a coin flip for me. Now, on one hand, I want to say Gonzaga is going to win because you've got 87-year-old Drew Timme, who's played college basketball since John Wooden was coaching and has 16 children of his own, all of them who have graduated college while he's still playing. So he's going to lead a really, really talented, deep Gonzaga team. But against a UCLA team that I think has gotten, well, I don't know if they've gotten overlooked, but possibly overlooked this year because, again, UCLA's dominance was such that if they don't win a national championship, if they don't get to a Final Four, it's kind of overlooked because of how great they were for so many years with Wooden, and then even into the 90s when they won that national championship with Ed O'Bannon. But I think this year's UCLA team is really tough. This is going to be an interesting matchup. I'm not even sure how to play this one. And coming up tonight at 5 o'clock, I'm actually going to be put on the spot because I'll be back on ESPN 105.5 with John Papadopoulos, and he'll be asking for my play of the week. I'm going to be breaking down these college basketball games in the Sweet 16, which, again, tip off at 5:30. And I had a thought to make UCLA Gonzaga my play of the week, but as it's getting a little bit closer here, I'm now starting to walk that back a bit. I might take a look at one of these other games because I don't know. My original thoughts might have led me astray a bit here.
Well, Gonzaga always gets harped on for their regular season schedule. They always seem to rock their regular season.
When they play in a weak conference.
Yeah, exactly. So that usually is the knock that they get. What I read, I believe is true, is 12 of the 16 teams that are left have never won a national championship. So that's going to make for another way of an interesting a tournament that it already has been. I have no idea where to go. You already brought up Drew Timme. He could be the one changer in that game. Is there any game as you're looking at it? I mean, where are you at Michigan State and Kansas State?
I like Michigan State here. I think that Michigan State's, they're playing with some real fire right now. Let's take a look at where the lines are at here for this afternoon's game. Michigan State currently a 2-point favorite, minus 125 on the money line. I kind of like Michigan State in this spot. Kansas State, again, is somebody that could definitely win this game. They're a team that could win this game, but I do like Michigan State. UConn -4 over Arkansas. I think UConn wins this game. Arkansas has been, again, a really good team, but I like where UConn's at. Their down low presence is just so dominant. Tennessee, Florida, FAU. Tennessee's only a 5-point favorite. I like that. I mean, Florida Atlantic, again, much like Gonzaga, plays in a shit conference, but they were 33-3 this season. And UCLA Gonzaga is a 1.5-point game right now. So this has been going back and forth. Like, again, this is about a coin flip. UCLA a 1.5 favorite right now. Money line on this one, minus 125 for UCLA, plus $1.05 here, plus 105 for Gonzaga. So if you like Gonzaga to win straight up, the value feels like it's on the money line tonight. I guess I would take a look too at betus.com and see what Gonzaga is getting, at least on the points. But money line plus 105, not terrible.
That's more your thing than for me, brother. I think, like you brought up Drew Timme. If he's going to ball out, then that's the only chance I think that Gonzaga can pull out the game. UCLA was coming in. They were almost going to be a number 1 seed until they lost a couple of games at the end of the regular
they
season.
lost in their conference championship.
So, yeah. It's going to be great basketball. There are no more, what was this one more that I had? There are no more Big Ten, ACC, Big East, or Pac-10 tournament champs. They're all gone in this tournament as well. So it's just, you brought it up all the time. This NCAA tournament has definitely changed. It's more of an even playing field all the way around.
Well, it really is, because the Blue Bloods don't have guys that stay for 3-4 years anymore, and that makes it a bit more of an even playing field. Now, the game that I'm going to be most interested to see, we haven't talked about it yet. The most interesting game for me is going to be tomorrow night, 8 o'clock, Princeton and Creighton. Princeton is currently a 9.5-point dog in this one, but these Princeton Tigers, boy, they have been playing some really inspired basketball. And this is not your grandfather's Princeton team. There's some athletes on this Princeton team. There really is. Either way, if you want to come down and see some of these games tonight at the Recovery Room, we'd love to host you. Tipping off at 5:30, Michigan State, Kansas State again, Arkansas, UConn, Florida Atlantic, Tennessee at 8, Gonzaga, UCLA at 8:45. Should be a good time. And today we have our gyros back on special, so spicy traditional gyros. We also have the prime rib sandwich. So if you're in for one of those great specials, and I know that there are a lot of people that wait for Euro days, if you will, come on down, see us tonight. We'll open up at 11, and that's when I'll be back behind the bar, as a matter of fact. So if you've got yourself hankering for some lunch, which I think, see Jimmy the Haggerty, say that he was going to be coming by for lunch today too. If you've got the hankering, love to see you down here. Should be a really good day at the Recov, and it's going to warm up again. I mean, we're possibly looking at some rain or some snow, but into the 50s. So don't be a wuss. Don't make excuses to stay at home, especially if you've got the time. Transitioning us over here real quick to Johnny Davis, because I want to get a couple of minutes in on Johnny Davis, who had seen really no action for Washington this season up until the last week and a half. So against Detroit on the 14th of the month, he scored 11 points, grabbed 5 rebounds. Detroit's a bad team, I get it, but Johnny looked good. 11 points, 5 boards in 19 minutes. Last night, Johnny scored 7 points. This was a loss to Denver. Denver, again, number 1 team in the NBA's Western Conference, playing like they needed the win, and they did. Johnny scored 7 points in 23 minutes. He also, Matt, made SportsCenter's top 10 plays last night with a really, really awesome one-handed up and under the basket move, which Denver coach Mike Malone got caught on camera just looking in awe of. So Mike Malone actually made like the little move that Johnny did as he shook his head. It was really something to see. Listen, I've always thought that when you get drafted, especially in today's NBA, when you're 1-2 years in college, it's hard to figure out exactly how good you're going to be, how impactful, and really what your role on the team is going to be, especially when Johnny got drafted by Washington. My hope for him was that he went to the Spurs. He ended up getting taken, I think, to pick before or pick after the Spurs. But he goes to Washington, a team where I was looking at the roster and saying, well, where's he going to fit? They've got Bradley Beal at 2. They've got a whole other host of guards. Where was Johnny going to fit? So part of that, I think him not being on the court had to do with the numbers game. Where was he going to play and how was he going to be able to get minutes? But the other thing we heard at the beginning of the season, even in the summer league, was Johnny was having a hard time staying on the court in practice, right? Like Johnny was having a hard time just going with these guys in practice. So I talked to Bailey Kale, good friend of Johnny's, comes to the Recov, good friend of the program. Johnny's been working with the shooting coach, essentially a shooting doctor for the entire season. They've reformed his shot. He spent a lot of time in the G League. He's really gotten some significant time, significant burn, and he's improved. And I know that his numbers won't jump off the page and go, wow, this kid is making an enormous impact. I don't know if you're Washington, if that's really the end all to be all. Johnny's what, 20 years old?
21.
Okay, 21 years old now. Okay, so he's just turned 21. This kid's got so much more room to grow. And the NBA is such a different game than college basketball. It takes a while. There's a learning curve to really get up to speed. Giannis wasn't the MVP that he is today, day one. Giannis's first season in the league looked like he was going to be, an okay or an interesting player. I'll never forget, before I moved here, I thought Giannis was going to turn out to be Nicholas Batum, who was a good player. Nicholas Batum's still playing for the Clippers now. He's a good player, but he's not a fucking league MVP. He's not a two-time MVP Defensive Player of the Year, NBA champion, right? So Giannis developed into something that, again, initially didn't necessarily look like he would be able to develop into. I don't think that Johnny Davis gets there, but I don't know. Maybe he could be as good as Bradley Beal. I just think it's nice to see him making his way back onto the NBA court and now getting some significant minutes in the end of a Washington season, which does look like at this point they won't be in contention for even that final play-in spot. So hopefully they give him as much time as possible, and hopefully Johnny makes the most out of it, because I'd love to see this kid from lacrosse really make an impact in the NBA. I would. That would make me so happy.
Well, and I would throw this out there as well. He's getting a lot of he got a lot of extensive time in the G League. I believe they called him up after the All-Star break. So his level of comfort is immensely grown over the year. And also, I want to throw this out there. He's coming from a Wisconsin-style basketball and moving to the NBA. It's going to take him a little bit while to familiarize himself with a different style and get used to playing at a speed of basketball. And now he's just, like you said, he's getting minutes, and it's good to see that he's hopefully going to be able to, have a great career.
Well, we look at the NBA guys, and I know that this is a fallback for those that don't really watch basketball intently and aren't like super big basketball fans. But we look at the NBA and say, oh, these guys don't play any defense. There's no defense. College is such better defense. Okay, two things. One, in the NBA, all of these guys are so good. Good luck stopping them, first of all. Second of all, in college basketball, you can load up and have 3 or 4 guys guard one dude without the basketball. That's not what you can't do that in the NBA. You have to play sort of man-to-man defense. It used to be specifically man-to-man defense, but Shaq wrecked the league for so many years. They changed the rules a bit. My point is, it looks a lot different in college because you don't have nearly the kind of skill that you've got in the NBA. Not even close. It's a different sport altogether. And then you've got completely different defensive rules. So Johnny getting used to that too. The league, not just the style of the Badgers play, but going from college to the NBA is probably one of the biggest jumps there is.
Well, I was talking about also the pace of play that the Badgers go to. And
forget about even that.
It's different.
He had to play against all the other big guys. It wasn't like the Badgers' pace of play was, he still had to play against Purdue. My point is, you could play against the best college basketball team, and that won't be as good. Not even close to as good as the G League team that you played against last week.
Right.
Like that G League team, far better, and would blow out any of these college teams right now. 20 points. They just wax them. It's like that NFL college discussion.
Yeah, that's how
would the SEC actually be able to hang in the NFC South or no, they wouldn't. Those kids would get murdered.
What was it? Could Alabama beat Jacksonville a couple years ago? Yeah, no way.
They could not. They would get fucking murdered. All right, stay tuned. We'll come back, wrap up shop. Again, get you prepped up for a big Thursday back behind the bar, and we'll talk a little bit about this Bucks team, who, again, just continues to steamroll themselves through the rest of this regular season. Last night, beating up on a lowly Spurs team.
Preferred Insurance is the official auto, home, business, flood, and life insurance agency of the Sports Carnival, serving folks in La Crosse and surrounding areas with licenses in Wisconsin, Minnesota, and Iowa. As an independent insurance agency, Preferred Insurance is free to find the very best insurance for you, your family, or your business needs. Call my friends at Preferred Insurance today and set up a free consultation. Remember, working with an independent agency means Preferred Insurance works for you, with you, to find the best solutions at the best prices.
Yes. Sports Carnival broadcasting live from the Trauma Center studio welcomes you back, saying what's up to our friends at betus.com. Remember, I am your sports betting guru tonight, 5 o'clock with John Papadopoulos, ESPN 105.5's The Sports Lead. I will be giving you my daily play. So take a listen, 5 o'clock with John and myself. Also, go to betus.com. If you haven't yet, sign up, get a free 125% deposit match. Use promo code CARNIVAL, and you'll nab that. Also, Preferred Insurance downtown. Tony and Brian Sandmeyer, your auto, flood, home, and business insurance. And our good buddy Sean O'Neill, the O'Neill Law Firm, who I was going back and forth with the other day, is here for your bankruptcy, your criminal, and your family needs. Thank you guys also very much for your support. I do want to shout out our friend Johnny Wazinski from Stacks Family Farms, who were trying to lure into the family here of the Sports Carnival. Bribery. To say this, Johnny, you mistook a take that was supposed to be funny and very obvious with a literal lack of knowledge. So I fully understand how we could get Bob Uecker's voice in at the recovery room. Bro, I'm not trying to pump up for free the place that I quit 8 months ago. Like, I understand, Johnny, how that we're doing that. And I'm not saying it can't be done. And listen, I felt like everybody was going along with the get along. Yep. You know where the fuck I was coming from. You know how we could get it. But of course I wasn't trying to say, and you know what? By the way, here, are you looking? Their program schedule is, Johnny, come on, man. Help me out. You got me with the fried ice cream. Matt wanted to jump on me, and he should have. Next time he'll gobble that up. But either way, no, we're not pumping him up. Listen, 2 seconds on the Bucks here because I want to do one thing before we leave. Giannis again last night, just an absolute monster, 31-14 in 24 minutes. For simple math, that is one half of basketball. Giannis in one half of basketball scored what wasn't all done in the first half, right, but in a half of minutes, 31-14. The Bucks just rolled. Most all of the Spurs starters were not playing. Bobby Portis, Chris Middleton, as you can see on your graphic here, had 19 points each. The Bucks never trailed. Middleton also had 10 assists. Portis also had 10 rebounds. Up next for the Bucks tomorrow night, 8 o'clock at Utah against the Jazz. This begins a 4-game road trip the Bucks will be on. Again, if you want to watch the Bucks, if you don't have the aforementioned Bally Sports Network, come and see us at the Recov. We'll be happy to have the game on for you. We have it on multiple screens. A lot of folks like to come for these games, especially the out west games. You know, sometimes you don't want to sit at home, watch a game until 10, 11 o'clock at night because you get tired, you get bored. You come down to the Recov, have a couple beers, maybe get yourself an appetizer or, some good food and watch the game with us. So Bucks, Jazz up next. Last night, the Bucks just absolutely rolled. And listen, don't be surprised when you look up at the end of the year at the standings and see Milwaukee as the number one team, not just in the Eastern Conference, but in the NBA. And then I'm going to really have a hard time going along with the notion that Nikola Jokic needs to be handed a third consecutive MVP. Giannis is the MVP of the league. Best player, best team. The Bucks are absolutely the cream of the crop this year. So for me, it's kind of a non-question, but we'll see. That's up to the NBA writers. Before we get out of here, and we can take some overtime if we need to get this story sort of fleshed out, I wanted to bring up two things. One, the unfortunate passing last night of Willis Reed, Knicks legend, two-time NBA Finals champion, 1970, 1973, just an all-around great player, an ambassador for the game. Very sad. Willis Reed passing away. We didn't cover this last week, and I feel like for Eric in La Crescent and a number of other Viking fans that may be listening, we probably did him a disservice. But Bud Grant, Minnesota Vikings, great, probably their best all-time head coach, passed away. Bud was not a spring chicken, lived a happy, full, healthy life, used to do a great rummage sale at his house every year. What was it? No selfies and
no bargaining.
No hassle.
Yep.
Yeah, no bargaining. This is what it was. And by the way, no selfies. Well, Bud Grant passing away did bring us back to something that you mentioned to me, and we just have really not gotten a chance to talk about it. Your great uncle, who worked in the NFL as well, wrote a biography with Bud Grant, wrote with Bud Grant his actual biography.
Yep, there are two of them out there. He wrote, my Uncle Bill wrote The Other Side of the Glacier, was the biography on Bud Grant. He also did The Rise on the Remarkable Journey of Alan Page, another Viking great.
Okay.
So he worked for the Vikings for a couple of years. Also, I want to throw up Bud Grant won a national or NBA title with the Minnesota Lakers, and he also played in the NFL, one of the only players to do athletes to ever play in the NBA and in the NFL. But getting back, my Uncle Bill had worked for the Vikings at the time. My dad was going up to visit them. And so my dad's sophomore in high school or what have you. And goes up there, and my dad had long hair at the time, and he's visiting my aunt and uncle. And has to use the restroom, and he ends up going in the elevator, goes up the elevator, and comes back, and Bud Grant's in the elevator with him, and he's giving my dad the evil eye because of his long ass hair. And up and
Dan
down.
Ellens had long hair.
Dan Ellens, my dad, the dirty doctor back in the day, had long hair. So he's coming down the elevator. The elevator opens with Bud Grant. Bud Grant's just giving him the evil eye the entire time. Opens up, and there's my aunt and uncle just staring at my dad with Uncle Bill, and eventually comes up to him and says, my Uncle Bill says, "Hey, I'd like to introduce you my nephew to Bud Grant." Bud looks at it and says, "Oh, I thought he was a girl because of the long hair." So basically, they end up trying to do a whole handshake. It doesn't work very well. And then Bud Grant says to him, literally, "Son, you need to go and get a haircut." So they take my dad down to the trainer's room, give him a big old buzz cut, shave down just like Bud Grant would have wanted when he was in the Navy, take him out to the practice field. And then finally, he shook my dad's hand because he didn't look like a girl back in the day.
Wow. So today, Bud Grant would be canceled. He would be ostracized. That would be a social media thing. Can you imagine the outcry if somebody was told to go cut their hair today? Well, I mean, imagine the outcry. If somebody was told by an NFL head coach, you meet Matt LaFleur, and Matt LaFleur is like, "Hello." And you're like, "Hi, Matt, this is my son, Jonathan." And he's like, "Hi, John, go cut your hair." Because that's how Matt LaFleur talks.
The first person that comes to me would have been Urban Meyer. Like the Urban Meyer shit that he tried to pull just recently when he was kicking the kicker, that type of shit.
Urban Meyer would have tried to go up skirt, dude.
Oh,
what are you talking about? He would have been like, "Hey, you're looking, you're looking good."
But yeah, sorry.
Awesome.
Yep, that was one of the good stories back in the day. Then my uncle went on to work for the Bears, so that's why I became a Bear fan.
I like this. Not a Bud Grant fan, but a Bear fan. Your dad definitely does not look like a girl. All right, everybody. Well, have a great rest of your day. Remember, open at 11 at the Recovery Room. Euros, prime rib special. I'm back behind the bar at 11, so come see us. Jimmy, I'm looking for you. I'm looking for you, buddy. See you guys in the morning here on the Sports Carnival.
Peace.